The gleaming spires of New Geneva stretched towards the sky, a testament to humanity's resilience in the face of climate change and overpopulation. Dr. Elena Reyes stood at the window of her 87th floor apartment, gazing at the bustling skyways and trying to calm her nerves. In just a few hours, she would make history as Earth's chief negotiator in humanity's first face-to-face meeting with an alien species. Elena's calm device chirped, displaying a message from her assistant. Transport arriving in 15 minutes, Dr. Reyes. The Zarkonian delegation ship has entered Earth's orbit. With a deep breath, Elena straightened her crisp blue uniform, emblazoned with the United Earth Government insignia. At 42, she was considered young for such a monumental responsibility, but her brilliance in xenolinguistics and cultural adaptation had made her the clear choice to lead this historic encounter. The transport pod whisked Elena through the city's elaborate network of tubes, depositing her at the newly constructed Interstellar Diplomatic Center. Security was tight, with both human and AI systems scanning every individual who entered the facility. Elena's heart raced as she was ushered into the primary meeting chamber, where a small team of Earth's top scientists and diplomats awaited her. Dr. Reyes greeted General Osaka, the gruff head of Earth's defense forces. Any last-minute insights on our visitors? Elena shook her head. The Zarkonians have been frustratingly vague in our long-range communications. We know they're bipedal and breathe an atmosphere similar to ours. But beyond that, she shrugged. I suppose we're about to find out. A low hum filled the air, and a shimmering portal materialized at the far end of the chamber. Elena's breath caught in her throat as three tall, slender figures stepped through. The Zarkonians were humanoid, but with striking differences. Their skin was a pale lavender, shot through with bioluminescent patterns that pulsed gently. Large, multifaceted eyes regarded the human delegation with an unreadable expression. Elena stepped forward, her voice steady despite her racing heart. On behalf of the people of Earth, I welcome you to our world. I am Dr. Elena Reyes, Chief Negotiator for the United Earth Government. The Central Zarkonian inclined its head, speaking in a melodious voice that seemed to resonate on multiple frequencies simultaneously. Greetings, Dr. Elena Reyes of Earth. I am Zarlek, emissary of the Eternal Harmony. We come seeking knowledge and exchange. As Elena listened, her implanted universal translator worked overtime, deciphering the complex layers of meaning in the Zarkonian language. She gestured towards the large oval table. Please, let us be seated and begin our discussions. For hours, the two groups engaged in careful, measured conversation. The Zarkonians were an ancient species, having achieved interstellar travel millennia ago. They spoke of a galactic community of sentient races, hinting at wonders beyond humanity's wildest dreams. Yet there was a wariness in their manner, a reluctance to divulge too much too quickly. As the meeting drew to a close, Elena felt a mix of exhilaration and frustration. They had made progress, certainly, but the Zarkonians remained enigmatic, their true intentions shrouded. Before we conclude, Zarlek said, rising from the table, we wish to perform a traditional greeting of our people. It is a sign of trust and goodwill between new allies. Elena glanced at General Osaka, who gave an almost imperceptible nod. We would be honored, she replied, standing as well. Zarlek approached Elena, extending a long-fingered hand. The diplomat in her knew this was a crucial moment, a chance to cement the fledgling relationship between their species. She reached out, clasping the alien's hand firmly. The instant their skin touched, Elena felt a jolt of energy course through her body. The Zarkonian's bioluminescent patterns flared brilliantly, and a gasp escaped Zarlek's lips. For a moment that seemed to stretch into eternity, they stood frozen, connected by more than just physical touch. Then, as quickly as it had begun, the moment passed. Zarlek withdrew his hand, eyes wide with what Elena could only interpret as shock. The other Zarkonians were chittering rapidly in their native tongue, the translator unable to keep up with their agitated speech. What just happened? Elena asked, her own hand tingling with residual energy. Zarlek's multifaceted eyes fixed on her, filled with a mixture of wonder and alarm. Dr. Reyes, the alien said slowly, I fear we have made a grave error. Our species, we are not merely diplomats. We are also scientists, explorers, and in our quest for understanding, we have developed unique abilities. Elena's mind raced, trying to comprehend the implications of Zarlek's words. What are you saying? The Zarkonian's voice was heavy with the weight of unexpected consequence. In our culture, the exchange of genetic material is more than just a biological process. It is how we share knowledge, experience, and create new life. The room fell silent as the full impact of Zarlek's words sank in. Elena felt the blood drain from her face as she looked down at her still tingling hand. Are you telling me, she whispered, that our handshake, that I'm... Zarlek nodded solemnly. Yes, Dr. Reyes. By the standards of both our species, you are now carrying a child. A hybrid of human and Zarkonian. The first of its kind in the known galaxy. As alarms began to sound and the room erupted into chaos, Elena could only stand there, her mind reeling. In a single moment, with a simple handshake, she had forever altered the course of human history and her own life, in ways she could never have imagined. The fate of two worlds now rested in her hands, and in the tiny spark of unprecedented life growing within her. The next 48 hours passed in a blur of medical examinations, heated debates, and frantic communications between Earth's leaders and the Zarkonian delegation. Elena found herself at the center of a diplomatic maelstrom, her body becoming a battleground of interstellar politics. This is unprecedented, Dr. Aisha Kaur, Earth's leading xenobiologist, muttered as she studied the holographic display of Elena's rapidly changing cellular structure. The Zarkonian genetic material is integrating with your DNA at an astonishing rate. It's almost as if it was designed for this. Elena lay on the examination table, her mind racing. Designed. Are you suggesting this was intentional? Dr. Kaur shook her head. I'm not suggesting anything at this point, but the compatibility, the speed of integration, it's remarkable. A commotion outside the medical bay drew their attention. General Osaka burst in, his face a mask of barely controlled fury. Dr. Rice, we need you in the war room immediately. The Zarkonians are demanding to take you back to their homeworld. Elena sat up, ignoring the wave of dizziness that washed over her. What? On what grounds? They're claiming the child you're carrying is a Zarkonian citizen, Osaka growled. They say our medical technology is insufficient to ensure its proper development. As Elena hurried to follow the general, she caught sight of her reflection in a polished surface. She gasped. Faint, iridescent patterns had begun to appear on her skin, pulsing in time with her heartbeat. In the war room, tensions were at a breaking point. Holographic displays showed massive Zarkonian ships taking up position around Earth, while frantic news reports speculated on the possibility of an alien invasion. Zarlek stood at the center of the storm, his usual calm demeanor replaced by obvious agitation. Dr. Reyes, he said as she entered, I implore you to reconsider. The child you carry is unlike anything our species has ever encountered. Its development must be carefully monitored in a controlled environment. Elena felt a surge of protective instinct, her hand unconsciously moving to her abdomen. And you expect me to simply abandon my world, my life, based on an accident? The Zarkonian's multifaceted eyes seemed to shimmer with emotion. An accident, yes, but one with profound implications. This child could be the key to a deeper understanding between our species. Or what? General Osaka demanded. Zarlek's voice was heavy. Or it could be a threat to both our worlds. The blending of our genetic structures may produce abilities we cannot predict or control. The room erupted into arguments, with Earth's leaders divided on how to proceed. Some advocated for cooperating with the Zarkonians, while others insisted on keeping Elena and the unprecedented child she carried. firmly under Earth's protection. As the debate raged, Alina felt a strange sensation ripple through her body. The iridescent patterns on her skin flared brightly, and suddenly, she could sense the emotions flooding the room. Fear, anger, curiosity, hope. It was overwhelming. "Stop," she cried out, her voice carrying an otherworldly resonance that immediately silenced everyone present. "This arguing is pointless. We're dealing with something none of us fully understand." She turned to Zarlik, her newly heightened senses allowing her to perceive layers of the alien's being she hadn't noticed before. "You're not telling us everything," she said softly. "There's more to this accident than you've revealed." The Zarkonian seemed to deflate slightly. "You are correct, Dr. Reyes. The full truth is more complex than we initially disclose. Our species has long sought a way to revitalize our genetic diversity. We are an ancient race, and in our longevity, we have begun to stagnate. The possibility of compatible hybridization with a younger species has been theorized." General Osaka's face reddened with rage. "So this was an experiment. You used Dr. Reyes as a lab rat." "No," Zarlik protested. "The compatibility was theorized, but never proven. The handshake was a genuine greeting. We had no idea it would result in conception, but now that it has." The alien's gaze fixed on Alina. "Now that it has, we cannot ignore the potential consequences, both positive and negative." Alina closed her eyes, trying to process the swirling maelstrom of information and emotion. When she opened them, she spoke with a newfound clarity. "I will not be going to the Zarkonian homeworld," she declared. "Nor will I submit to being treated as a science experiment here on Earth. This child is as much human as it is Zarkonian. Its fate, and mine, should be decided together, with full transparency and cooperation between our species." She looked around the room, meeting the eyes of both humans and aliens. "We stand at a crossroads. This child, unplanned and unprecedented, represents both a challenge and an opportunity. We can let fear drive us apart, or we can embrace this chance to forge a true understanding between our peoples." A hush fell over the room as the weight of Alina's words sank in. Finally, the President of the United Earth Government stepped forward. "Dr. Reyes is right. We need a new approach." She turned to Zarlik. "We propose a joint scientific and diplomatic mission. Your experts working alongside ours, here on Earth. Together, we'll monitor the development of this child and explore the implications for both our species. In return, we expect full disclosure of your knowledge and technology related to this hybridization process." Zarlik was silent for a long moment, communicating silently with the other members of his delegation. At last, he inclined his head. "We accept your proposal, with one addition. As the child grows, we request that Dr. Reyes be allowed to visit our homeworld, to understand the heritage that is now a part of her offspring." As the leaders began to hash out the details of this unprecedented arrangement, Alina felt a glimmer of hope. The path ahead was uncertain, filled with challenges she could scarcely imagine. But in the depths of her being, where human and Zarkonian DNA were weaving together to form something entirely new, she sensed the potential for a future brighter than either species had dared to dream. The first steps toward that future would not be easy, but as Alina placed her hand on her abdomen, feeling the first stirrings of the miraculous life within, she knew that every step would be worth it. The months that followed Alina's fateful handshake with Zarlik were a whirlwind of scientific discovery, diplomatic negotiations, and personal transformation. The joint human Zarkonian research facility, hastily constructed on the outskirts of New Geneva, became a hive of activity as experts from both worlds worked tirelessly to understand the unprecedented hybrid gestation. Alina's body continued to change in ways that defied conventional medical understanding. The iridescent patterns on her skin grew more pronounced, shifting and pulsing in response to her emotions. Her senses sharpened beyond human norms, allowing her to perceive subtle energy fields and even rudimentary thoughts from those around her. Fascinating, Dr. Kaur murmured as she reviewed the latest scan results. The fetus is developing neural pathways unlike anything we've ever seen. It's as if it's combining the best aspects of both species' cognitive structures. Elena smiled wryly. That's reassuring. I was half afraid it might grow tentacles or something. Zarlik, who had become a constant presence in Elena's life, tilted his head in confusion. Tentacles would be highly inefficient for a land-dwelling species. Why would you fear such an outcome? Human humor, Zarlik, Elena explained with a chuckle. We often joke about our fears to make them less daunting. The Zarkonian's multifaceted eyes shimmered with interest. Ah, yes, humor, a concept we still struggle to fully grasp. Perhaps the child will help us understand it better. As Elena's pregnancy progressed, however, not everyone viewed the developing hybrid with such optimism. Protests erupted in cities across Earth, with some groups decrying the alien contamination of the human gene pool. Others hailed the unborn child as a messianic figure, the key to humanity's ascension to the stars. The Zarkonian homeworld faced its own turmoil. Conservative factions within their society saw the hybridization as a dilution of their ancient bloodlines, while others viewed it as the revolution their stagnating civilization desperately needed. Tensions came to a head in Elena's 5th month of pregnancy. She was preparing for her first visit to the Zarkonian homeworld when an urgent message came through from General Osaka. Dr. Rice, we have a situation. The general's holographic form flickered with barely contained anger. A radical human supremacist group has taken hostages at the Sydney spaceport. They're demanding we end all contact with the Zarkonians and terminate your pregnancy. Elena felt a chill run down her spine, her hand instinctively moving to protect her swollen abdomen. That's insane. Surely they must realize. Rationality isn't their strong suit, Osaka interrupted. We're mobilizing a response team, but this incident is already inflaming anti-alien sentiment worldwide. As if on cue, Elena's comm device lit up with breaking news alerts. Protests were erupting in major cities across the globe. In orbit, civilian ships were challenging the perimeter around the Zarkonian vessels, demanding they leave Earth space immediately. Zarlik burst into the room, his usual composure shattered. Elena, we must leave at once. My superiors are recalling our delegation. They fear for our safety. No. Elena stood, her eyes flashing with a determination that seemed to draw power from both her human resolve and her new Zarkonian attributes. If we leave now, it will only confirm the fears of those who oppose our cooperation. We need to face this head-on. She turned to the holographic display. General Osaka, I need a direct line to every major news outlet. Global broadcast. Osaka's eyes widened. Dr. Rice, in your condition. In my condition, I'm uniquely qualified to address this crisis. Elena cut him off. Make it happen. Within minutes, Elena found herself facing a global audience of billions. Humans and Zarkonians alike watched with bated breath as she began to speak. People of Earth and honored guests from Zarkon, she began, her voice steady despite the gravity of the moment. I stand before you today as living proof of the incredible potential that lies in cooperation between our species. The child I carry is not a threat, not an abomination, but a promise of a future brighter than either of our civilizations could achieve alone. As she spoke, Elena felt a surge of energy coursing through her body. The iridescent patterns on her skin began to glow, visible even through her clothing. Gasps of awe echoed through the studio. I understand your fears. The unknown has always been a source of terror for thinking beings, but I implore you to look beyond those fears, to see the wonder of what we are creating together. With a deep breath, Elena made a decision that would alter the course of history. She placed her hands on her abdomen and closed her eyes, reaching out with her newfound abilities. Suddenly, the broadcast was filled with a sound that defied description, a melody that seemed to resonate on frequencies beyond normal human hearing, yet touched the hearts of all who listened. This, Elena said softly, is the song of my child. Neither fully human nor fully Zarkonian, but a harmony of both. A new verse in the cosmic symphony. As the otherworldly music washed over the world, something remarkable began to happen. Reports flooded in of the hostage-takers in Sydney laying down their weapons, moved to tears by the sound. Protesters in the streets embraced one another, their anger melting away in the face of this undeniable miracle. In orbit, the civilian ships that had been threatening the Zarkonian vessels broke off their approach, their crews too awestruck to continue their misguided mission. As the broadcast ended, Elena collapsed into a chair, drained but triumphant. Zarlek knelt beside her, his multifaceted eyes shimmering with an emotion that transcended species barriers. "You have done the impossible," the Zarkonian whispered. "You have given both our peoples a glimpse of what we can become together." Elena smiled, feeling the gentle movements of the miraculous life within her. "This is just the beginning," she said. "We have so much more to learn from each other." As news of the global change of heart spread, leaders from both Earth and Zarkon scrambled to capitalize on this newfound spirit of cooperation. The planned visit to the Zarkonian homeworld was expanded into a grand cultural exchange, with delegations from both species preparing to journey across the stars. Elena knew that challenges still lay ahead. The child she carried would be born into a world of endless possibilities, but also grave responsibilities. But as she looked out at the night sky, seeing it not as a void of darkness, but as a canvas of potential, she felt ready to face whatever the future might bring. The handshake that had changed everything was just the first step. Now, with every beat of her heart and every kick of her unborn child, Elena Reyes was writing a new chapter in the story of two worlds united by an accident of biology and the boundless power of hope. The day of the birth arrived with a spectacular aurora that painted the skies of both Earth and Zarkon in shimmering waves of color. Scientists would later discover that the phenomenon was caused by an unprecedented surge in the quantum entanglement field between the two worlds, a physical manifestation of the connection forged by the impending arrival of the hybrid child. Elena Reyes lay in the specially designed birthing chamber, a marvel of human and Zarkonian medical technology. Dr. Kaur stood ready, flanked by a team of the most brilliant minds from both species. Zarlek hovered nearby, his normally composed demeanor betraying a mix of anxiety and excitement. "Remember your breathing, Elena," Dr. Kaur encouraged. "Everything looks good, but we're in uncharted territory here." Elena nodded, her skin pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that mirrored the aurora outside. As another contraction hit, she reached out instinctively, grasping Zarlek's hand. The touch sparked a cascade of shared sensations between them: pain, fear, hope, and a profound sense of wonder at the new life they were ushering into the universe. The labor was intense, lasting nearly 24 hours. As Elena pushed with the last of her strength, the room was filled with a burst of radiant energy that momentarily overloaded every sensor and piece of equipment. When the light faded, a cry unlike any heard before on Earth or Zarkon filled the air. Dr. Kaur, her eyes wide with amazement, held up the newborn. "It's there," the doctor stammered, at a loss for words. The child was a perfect blend of both species. Delicate, iridescent patterns swirled across skin that shifted between human tones and Zarkonian hues. Eyes that held the depth and complexity of Zarkonian facets, but the warmth and expressiveness of human irises blinked up at the assembled group. As Elena cradled her child for the first time, she felt a rush of emotions and sensations that transcended normal human experience. The baby's mind reached out to hers, conveying not just feelings but complex concepts and perceptions that defied easy categorization. "Hello, little one," Elena whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Welcome to the universe." Zarlek leaned in, his multifaceted eyes shimmering with an emotion that Elena now recognized as the Zarkonian equivalent of joy. "They are perfect," he said softly. "A true bridge between our peoples." The news of the successful birth spread rapidly across both worlds. Celebrations erupted in cities on Earth and Zarkon alike. The child, whom Elena and Zarlek named Aria in honor of the cosmic melody that had first united their species, quickly became a symbol of hope and a new era of interstellar cooperation. As Aria grew, it became clear that they were unlike any being seen before in the known galaxy. By 6 months, they were communicating telepathically not just with Elena and Zarlek, but with anyone who came near. Their cognitive development outpaced even the most optimistic projections, with Aria demonstrating an innate understanding of complex scientific and philosophical concepts by their first birthday. The child's unique physiology allowed them to thrive in both Earth and Zarkonian environments. Aria's skin could adjust its composition to filter harmful radiation or absorb beneficial energies. Their brain structure combined the logical processing power of Zarkonian neurology with the creative intuition of human cognition. But it was Aria's empathic abilities that truly set them apart. The child seemed to possess an innate understanding of the emotional states of those around them, and an uncanny ability to bridge divides and foster understanding between disparate groups. This gift was put to the test when a delegation from a newly discovered alien species, the Voxari, arrived on Earth. The insectoid race's method of communication, a complex system of pheromones and electromagnetic pulses, had stumped even the most advanced universal translators. As tensions mounted and the risk of a disastrous first contact loomed, 3-year-old Aria toddled into the conference room, where human, Zarkonian, and Voxari representatives were locked in fruitless attempts at communication. To the astonishment of all present, Aria began to emit a series of soft chirps and pulses, their skin flickering with patterns that mimicked the Voxari's own bioluminescent language. The insectoid aliens froze, then erupted into a flurry of excited clicks and whistles. "They're saying hello," Aria announced to the stunned human and Zarkonian diplomats. "And they're asking if we have any good recipes for fermented algae. It's apparently a delicacy on their world." The ice broken, negotiations proceeded smoothly, with Aria serving as a bridge not just between languages, but between fundamentally different modes of thought and perception. As news of Aria's diplomatic triumph spread, Elena found herself reflecting on the incredible journey that had led to this moment. What had begun as an accidental touch, a simple handshake between two species, had blossomed into something that was reshaping the very fabric of galactic society. But with Aria's growing abilities came new challenges. Some feared the child's power, seeing in Aria the potential for either unparalleled good or unimaginable destruction. Others sought to exploit the hybrid's unique gifts for their own ends. Elena knew that protecting and guiding Aria would be the greatest challenge she had ever faced. But as she watched her child bring together beings from across the stars with a smile and a touch, she felt a sense of hope that outshone even the brightest suns in the galaxy. The universe, Elena realized, would never be the same. And neither would she. The handshake that had changed everything was just the beginning of a cosmic dance that would continue for generations to come. As Aria grew and developed, the child of two worlds would face trials and triumphs beyond imagining. But with every step, every discovery, and every new connection forged between the stars, Elena knew that the accidental touch that had started it all was no accident at all. It was destiny, written in the very atoms of the universe, waiting for humanity and the Zarkonians to be ready to take their first tentative steps towards a future limited only by the power of understanding and the boundless potential of love. As Aria approached their 10th birthday, the impact of their existence on galactic society had become profound. The child of two worlds had grown into a beacon of hope and a catalyst for change across the known universe. Earth and Zarkon had become the center of a burgeoning interstellar alliance, with representatives from dozens of species flocking to learn from the unique hybrid civilization that was emerging. The exchange of knowledge and culture had accelerated technological advancement beyond anyone's wildest dreams. Elena Reyes, now serving as the head of the newly formed Galactic Diplomatic Court, stood on the observation deck of Harmony Station, a massive space habitat orbiting at the midpoint between Earth and Zarkon. Below her, ships of all shapes and sizes docked and departed, carrying beings from across the galaxy. "Contemplating your handiwork?" a familiar voice asked. Alina turned to see Zarlek approaching, his once alien features now as familiar and dear to her as any humans. She smiled, the iridescent patterns on her skin pulsing gently. "Hardly my handiwork alone," she replied. "We've all played our part in this grand experiment." Zarlek nodded, his multifaceted eyes taking in the spectacular view. "True, but it was your courage and openness that set it all in motion." That handshake changed everything. Before Alina could respond, a ripple of excitement passed through the crowded station. Beings of all species turned towards the large view screen dominating the far wall. Aria's face appeared, broadcasting from the surface of a distant world. "Greetings, friends and fellow explorers," Aria began, their voice carrying the harmonics that had become their trademark. At just 10 years old, Aria had already become a respected figure across the galaxy, their unique perspective bridging gaps between cultures that had once seemed insurmountable. "I stand before you today on the homeworld of the Lysani, a species long thought to be extinct," Aria continued. "Thanks to the combined efforts of human ingenuity, Zarkonian restoration techniques, and the biological insights gained from my own hybrid physiology, we have successfully revived a small population from their millennia-long hibernation." Cheers erupted throughout the station. The Lysani Revival Project had been Aria's first major initiative, born from a vision they had experienced during a deep meditation. It was a testament to how far interspecies cooperation had come that such an ambitious undertaking had been embraced and supported by the galactic community. As Aria continued their report, detailing the challenges and triumphs of the revival process, Alina felt a swell of pride and wonder. Her child, though child seemed an inadequate term for the being Aria had become, was reshaping the very fabric of galactic civilization. "It's remarkable," Zarlek mused, echoing Alina's thoughts. "In just a decade, we've made more progress in understanding the fundamental nature of life and consciousness than in the previous millennium." Alina nodded. "And we've only scratched the surface." Aria's abilities seem to grow with each passing day. The way they can interface with different species' cognitive structures, bridging gaps in understanding that we once thought insurmountable. She trailed off, a familiar mixture of awe and concern washing over her. Aria's power was immense and still not fully understood. There were times when Alina worried about the weight of responsibility on her child's shoulders and the potential for that power to be misused or feared. As if sensing her thoughts, Zarlek placed a comforting hand on Alina's shoulder. The touch, once so alien, now felt as natural as breathing. "You're thinking about the Omega Directive again, aren't you?" Alina sighed. The Omega Directive was a fail-safe protocol, developed in secret by a coalition of species, designed to contain or neutralize Aria if their powers ever posed a threat to galactic stability. Its very existence was a source of constant tension between those who saw Aria as the key to a brighter future and those who feared the unknown potential of the hybrid child. "I can't help but worry," Alina admitted. "Aria's intentions are pure, but they're reshaping the fundamental structures of civilizations that have existed for millennia. Not everyone sees that as progress." Before Zarlek could respond, a commotion near the docking bay caught their attention. A group of protesters had unfurled a banner denouncing the hybrid menace and calling for a return to species purity. It was a small group, but their presence was a stark reminder that not everyone embraced the changes sweeping the galaxy. As security moved to contain the situation, Alina felt a familiar presence touch her mind. Aria's consciousness reached out across the vast distances of space, a gentle caress that carried with it a depth of understanding beyond their years. "It's all right, Mom," Aria's thoughts whispered in Alina's mind. "Fear of change is a constant in the universe, but so is the capacity for growth and understanding. We'll face these challenges together, as we always have." Alina smiled, sending back a wave of love and reassurance. She turned to Zarlik, seeing in his eyes the same determination that burned within her. "You're right," she said, squaring her shoulders. "We've come too far to turn back now. Whatever the future holds, we'll face it as one people, not human, not Zarkonian, but something new and wonderful." As they made their way to the conference room to begin another day of shaping galactic policy, Elena reflected on the incredible journey that had brought them to this point. A simple handshake had set in motion events that were still unfolding, rippling across the cosmos in ways no one could have predicted. The challenges ahead were immense: integrating revived ancient species like the Lysani, navigating the complex web of galactic politics, and continuing to push the boundaries of science and understanding, all while helping Area navigate their own extraordinary existence. But as Elena looked out at the stars, no longer distant points of light, but beacons of possibility, she felt a profound sense of hope. The accident that had changed everything was no accident at all, but the universe's way of pushing its children towards a future of unlimited potential. With Area as a bridge between worlds, species, and even dimensions of thought, the next chapter in the cosmic story was just beginning. And Elena Reyes, once a simple diplomat from Earth, now stood at the center of it all, ready to help write that story one incredible day at a time. As the doors to the conference room slid open, revealing representatives from a dozen worlds waiting to begin the day's negotiations, Elena took a deep breath. The handshake that had started it all had been just the first step. Now, with every decision, every breakthrough, and every new connection forged between the stars, they were all walking together into a future brighter than any single species could have imagined. The greatest adventure in the history of the galaxy was only just beginning.